Double bind.
Double bind.
Double bind.
Double bind.
Double bind.
Just, I can't really hear it from my end right now. I'll hear it when I'm editing, if that makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, well, welcome to Double Bind, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us for another week of conversation on the Black world. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. I am your host, Springle. And again, this week, I'm super happy to have a full house of all my co-hosts in studio with me. Of course, we've got Boogs out of Toronto. We've got Kenya out of Brooklyn.
Hey.
We've got Snead, who's a little sleepy because he hasn't said a word yet. And then we've got Twaz.
Yep. I mean, I kind of joined the conversation. I don't know what, at the tail end of Kenya's story, which sounded absolutely nuts, but wow.
Welcome to being Black. It's always nuts.
I know, right?
Yeah. And a Black woman
really
at that.
It's really crazy.
Oh my God! Wait. If y'all had to come back as a different person, like if you could choose to be reincarnated as something, one, would you come back as a male or female in Kenya's case? And would you come back as being Black?
No, I would not. Asian or a white woman.
Wow. And a woman. So why? Why specifically a white woman?
Well, because white women are protected. Yeah, they are, in my opinion, probably a real threat, but they're protected in any kind of way.
Woo!
They get away with everything.
So Snead in Lovecraft Country, what was the sister's name again? The character that played
Ruby.
So you would want to take the potion and be white for a day.
Not for a day, bro.
Not for a day. He said when you die, you come back. We're talking about reincarnation. I want to come back as a white woman, a Jewish white woman at that, or an Asian. Because I want to know. I want to know what it. I want to know what it feels like.
Specific groups that
I
got
want to know what it
money.
feels like to skate through life and have no accountability, no responsibility.
Well,
none of it.
Well, you don't want to be a Jewish white woman in Europe in the 30s. So let's skip the 20s, 30s, and 40s.
Are we talking about time travel? We're talking about right now. Is this what we're talking about?
No. Reincarnation ahead, not in the 1930s.
Right, we're not talking about time traveling back into the 30s and the 40s. We're talking about right now. I think it's vastly different.
Yeah, but if you, Snead, if you want to go through life without experiencing any type of oppression, like skate through life, oppression free, why not be a white man?
True.
I don't know. I think for me, I still want to come back.
Because I was born, I'm a man already. I was a Black man. I want to be something else, you know?
No, I would want to be a Black man.
He wants that long black blonde.
I want that Pantene type here.
In the breeze.
Kenya, you said you'd rather come back as a Black man, but you don't think, I feel like we have it harder than women in some ways.
You asked me my opinion. You asked me my opinion.
Yeah.
That's my opinion. I would want to come back as a Black man. I wouldn't want to be anything other than Black. Black to me is dope.
Let's explore that.
I would just want to see what it's like to be a Black man. I know what it's like to be a Black woman.
Let me give you a little points. You walk into a store, they automatically think you're gonna steal. If it was a man or woman, the woman might get I think she might get a little less monitoring.
What?
Yeah, trust me.
No, sir.
Yes.
No, sir.
I'm not talking about beauty stores. I'm not talking about beauty stores.
I don't go to beauty stores. I have hairstylists for that. But I'm just saying, as a Black woman, you are constantly under surveillance.
No, I disagree. I actually think, this is just, obviously I'm not a woman, so I'm not going to know.
I was just about to ask you. So are you saying you don't agree? You're not a woman. That's like, tell you how to be a man.
So my perspective, listen to what I'm saying. I think that Black men, because men rule the world, right? Men, I believe, are intrinsically aggressive to other men. We're just wired like that. We're competing, whether it's overtly or covertly, right?
But you asked my opinion, I gave it, and you're minimizing.
I'm just giving you my points. I'm not arguing your opinion.
I'm not arguing. I'm just defending my point.
What I'm saying is, I'm giving you. So what I'm giving you is
maybe let's unpack why she feels that she feels.
Yeah, but you got to be careful.
You did ask her a question. You can't ask her a question and then give her a counter thought of why that don't matter.
You're not even giving her a chance to finish her thought.
No, you're right. You're right. You're right. So why do you feel? No, you're absolutely right. You're right.
And that's why I'm saying, as a woman, we're always minimized. You're asking me my opinion. I'm giving you, and you're like, no, it's not. Whoa, it's my opinion.
Wow.
This is my experience. You're minimizing my experiences.
She has a point.
You didn't even let me finish.
She has a point. She has a point. And again, it's I'm doing it in a way that I'm not even aware of it. So it's very
right. And that's why I'm being the only female here. I'm showing you that was an example of what it's like to be a Black woman. Period.
Yeah.
Continue.
But what I'm saying, okay, so let's go back, and I'm definitely with Twaz and Boogs on this. So to explain to me, why do you feel like you might be monitored more than, say, a male?
I didn't say more than a man. I said I'm constantly under surveillance. Number one, if you're Black and you walk into a room, you have others looking at you. And as a woman, and when I say others, I mean men, women, Black, white, other races, or whatever. No matter where you are, someone's always scrutinizing you, whether it's a Black man, a white man, or whatever. You're always under surveillance. Even if you look on social media, if you wear your hair straight, natural, or whatever, somebody always has an opinion of a Black woman. We could never just be. If I say A, somebody's going to say, well, B and C, and this is what I feel. It's like, wow. So I know what it's like as a woman. I'm just saying, if I'm coming back, I kind of want to see what my experiences would be like as a Black man. I want to experience it for myself.
I think that's kind of interesting, Kenya, because, I mean, you don't have to be a Black man to know what Black men go through. And if you experience all these obstacles and barricades as a Black woman, I find it as an interesting choice that you would come back as a Black man, because I don't think it'd be any different. You know, I think you're trading.
The difference is.
Wait a minute.
Oh, go ahead.
I think you're trading, one horrible scenario for another. Wouldn't you agree?
I don't think being Black is horrible. I like being Black.
Me too.
I'm just saying, I want to see what it's like.
We're talking about the experience for Black people. I love being Black too.
Again, I didn't get to finish my point.
That Black people endure on a daily basis.
Y'all go ahead. Yeah, because y'all gonna give me my opinion. So y'all go ahead.
Let this girl finish her point, y'all. Will y'all let her finish her point?
No, I didn't. Every time I was about to, I'm trying to give you context so you can understand, but then y'all just keep jumping in. So
I think we kind of did that to each other, but that's neither here or there. But you go ahead. Go ahead. Finish your point.
I thought she kind of finished her point. That's why I was about to. But okay, so continue.
Yeah.
Continue. The reason I say Black as a man, it might be a little harder, right? It's simply because I believe men rule the world, whether we agree or not. I think most problems are perpetuated by men. Most aggressions are perpetuated by men. Keyword most, I didn't say all. And I believe men are wired to be aggressive to other men, whether it's overtly or covertly. So what I'm saying is, as a Black male versus a woman who is not seen as a threat to a man, you know what I mean? And we've had this conversation before, Kenya, when we talked about Black love. When
I think both has its advantages and disadvantages, but I think it's a fruitless. I think it's a fruitless, unproductive project to try to quantify, suffering and disenfranchisement. I don't think we should ever get into a pissing contest who feels the most disenfranchised.
Well, I don't think it's a pissing contest, but we can't give perspective.
But I think too high. But I think perspectives also. But let's, like Kenya said, let's not minimize. And let's contextualize. I think that's
what I was trying to say was I wanted to come back as a Black man because I want to be desired by everybody. Because who doesn't love a Black man? That was the point that I was trying to get to.
Bars.
But I digress.
King, I wasn't trying to minimize.
Yeah, I think that if I may, just listening. I think, Neil, you were making your point just now about you was trying to give reasons as to back up your explanation, but in doing that, you dismissed Kenya's explanation, and then it started to sound like the Oppression Olympics.
Thank you.
So I just think that we have to be mindful in these spaces, and if we are asking a question of each other, we have to allow the answer to be thought through as we're discussing it before we interject.
Thank you, Boogs. And
A
Twaz.
few moments later.
Noted, duly noted. So let's get to the topic at hand, and we'll argue about this post-recording. So we did want to talk about, again, this is Black History Month. We did want to talk about Black films that center around Blackness and Black people and Black experiences. And of course, this week we decided we will take a look at Judas and the Black Messiah, which was a movie based on the Black Panther movement. And I said Black Panther, switching accents here. But who wants to chime in first? Boogs, did you check it out? What did you think about the movie?
Yeah, I did. So just to give a little background, Judas and the Black Messiah centered around the latter half of the Black Panther chairman, Fred Hampton's life, as the federal government prepared its plot to assassinate him with the help of William O'Neill. And it's interesting because the movie is set around a 4 or 5 year period. I did some research after I watched the movie because I love the movie, but I did some research and I found it was literally 1965 or 1966, and it ended in 1969. So between 4 or 5 years. William O'Neill, in the beginning of the movie, when he's arrested for stealing the car, he actually had a criminal record prior to that. And he was arrested for stealing the vehicle because he drove it across state lines. And he was only 17 years old. And a lot of the people that I've been speaking to have been saying, you know, William is a coon and he shouldn't have done what he did, and taking his own life, which he did later on in 1990, I believe. He deserved that, and he shouldn't have done what he did because it's a repercussion of his own consequences, rather, of his own actions. But just bring it back for a second. If you're 17 years old in Black America in 1966, you have been subjected to a life of crime. You've gone to court and you're being told you're going to be charged with a felony and you're going to have 5 years in jail. Or you can be an informant and you can get away scot-free with this crime if you give us the details of the Black Panther movement. Would you say yes or would you say no? Remember, you're 17 years old.
I want to let Twaz pipe in on this really quickly.
Let me just first off start by saying I have the same issue with this movie that I had with Black Klansman. From a cinematic perspective, from a moviegoer's perspective, I don't like the lead character. Like, it's really hard for me to like a movie when I don't really like the lead. I mean, I guess one can say the lead is, then it becomes to the question of who's the lead. Is it Fred Hampton or is it Wild Bill or Bill O'Neill? I really feel like it's Lakeith's movie in many ways, even though we admire Fred Hampton as Lakeith's movie. And I don't like him. I must say, I would take the time.
Is it because you don't like the way he presented himself and the character, or is it you just don't like him as an actor?
It's not a redeeming character. The character's not redeeming to me. There's nothing about him. He has no redeeming qualities. There's nothing about him where he had reached any form of salvation, transcendence, or character arc. He had no character arc.
But that isn't that true to life though? That man didn't really. Come on now. Did you watch the actual interview?
I would say, you keep calling him a man. He's a boy.
I'm talking about cinematically.
Got you for the story. Well, I mean, they kind of kept it true to form. You know,
what I said. I'm talking about cinematically. As a cinematic experience, the character had no. I'm not debating the history. I'm not debating that at all. I mean, you can't argue history until you do. But that's not what I'm doing. I'm saying cinematically, from a movie, I did not like the character. Now, I wrote a whole.
Question, I'm sorry to interrupt. Are you saying you don't like the character of Wild Bill or Lakeith? I'm confused.
The character of the movie, Wild Bill. I did not like the character. I'm talking about the character in the cinematic universe that we watched. for 2.5 hours or so it went. That character, I did not like him. I did not believe in him. I wanted to believe in him. I wanted him to make the right choice. I wanted him to save the day at the end. I thought he was, but he didn't.
But yeah, that's kind of, isn't that kind of going with the formula of movies?
Well, that's what
isn't that what you're kind of expecting?
And that is what, and that's what I was going to, part of even. Sometimes you have to take like swaths of drink some of the murky water of history to really get the taste of it. Sometimes the way it tastes isn't so sweet. It stinks and it's musty, and we don't like it. But that's the way it went down. So I'm not debating that.
But aren't there some people that are just boring? That there's no arc to them. They do the same thing day in and day out. Maybe that's what Bill was like in real life.
Right.
Just a question.
I mean, that probably so.
Everyone
probably so. I'm not debating. Probably so. I'm just like, how do you get to cinema as a cinematic experience? I think they were trying to portray a moment in history, for better or for worse, for whether it's entertaining or not. Then the same thing with One Night in Miami. We had to sit down in these real moments, these real uncomfortable moments with these people. And it wasn't always pretty, and it wasn't always comfortable, and it wasn't always like sugar and, coffee and spice and everything nice. It was like uncomfortable. And we actually kind of got to see the vulnerabilities in these people, which I don't think people were really used to seeing.
Snead, can we get your thoughts? Because you're good with movies. You're more of a movie buff than most of us here. So
I mean, here's the thing. I kind of agree with Twaz a little bit as far as the portrayal of this movie. Here we are again. I was just a little confused with the timeline. And you know what? Let me just say this. I really, no disrespect to Shaka King, but I think for a movie of this magnitude, I think that he should have said no. I think that a more experienced filmmaker. I
don't think the script was ready. It felt incomplete. It wasn't.
I'm with Twaz on that. The script felt dry. It felt incomplete. It felt
right.
It felt almost like they lacked a bit of research. But back to you.
and some rewrites.
A little bit of research or a lot of research? A lot of research. Because the
script lacked the arc. Like to get the full cinema, consider a full movie going experience, it has to be an arc. A full character development, change, protagonist, shift, reversal. We're that's a good story. We didn't get that. That movie did not supply us that. But what it did,
I think they tried. I think they tried.
What they did supply us though with, and I think we have to pay attention to this, because what I don't want us to do is miss the forest for the trees, is that we got a glimpse of Fred Hampton. We got a glimpse of this man that many people, young people, do not know who this man is. And even people of our generation, we've heard his name, but we don't know much about this man. So I think the greatness of this movie, it gave us a peek into the life of this man and what he stood for, his swag, how he lived, and how he went out. And I think that should be enough to get us more interested in him and do further research and make further stories about either him or any other Black figure that deserves more focus and attention. He was 23 years old? How old was he? 24? And didn't they show how old he was? You know what? I hear what you're saying, Twaz, and I don't think there was enough of that for me personally. I was interested in, his life prior to him becoming the chairman of the Black Panther Party in Chicago. And, he was doing great things at the age of 14 within the community. So those are elements of the movie that I wish that, were included, because he also had a record by the time he even popped up on the FBI's radar.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay. Got you.
And those times, I don't think anybody had a clean, record or whatever. I mean, they would arrest you for jaywalking if they could, or sitting on the sidewalk. I just wish that there was more meat, because I think it was just, the movie was flat. I think that there were very, very critical points in this man's life that was not in this movie. I think they just kind of focused on the wrong things for me personally, as a movie lover. I don't think that this was a movie where I learned anything. This was just regurgitated stuff that most people said they don't know anything about Fred Hampton. it wasn't really anything heavy, anything meaty. And that's what I was looking for. That's what I was excited for, especially an actor of Daniel's caliber. Like, I really thought that this was going to be like, oh shit, this is going to be, and you know, Neil, you know, had I enjoyed the movie, we'd have been talking about having a conversation on this movie for this episode. But I watched it a few times and I was just like, yeah, I'm still not lit. I got more satisfaction out of watching these clips on YouTube.
I can see
on
why
all
you're
of them,
saying
actually, because I've been, since this movie dropped, and I watched it way before, probably before most of y'all, I immediately like got my pad and my pencil, and I started, you know, jotting down notes and doing my own personal research. And there was just so much. They could have done so much more with this movie. So much more. And they just missed the mark for me.
Right.
Shade.
Did anyone see? I have not. Again, I suck at like remembering movies, watching movies. The movie Panther, I think in the 90s. Did anyone see that movie? I think it was called Panther.
I wasn't born yet.
You weren't born yet.
And there was also a documentary on it on PBS that was kind of.
I was going to say,
detailed.
what can we reference that would be a little bit more detailed that you guys can recommend watching?
Probably Panther on PBS.
Yeah, or you can go to the YouTube on Fred Hampton. It's an hour and some change. You can watch that, and that to me, that was the movie that I wanted to see.
For our millennials, they're really good at doing research. So the good thing about, I'm sorry?
The ones that are.
Right. So I think
the ones that are, because believe it or not, a lot of millennials don't know how to do research. Their research is YouTube, and that's it. And it's like, that's it? That's all, just the facts, just YouTube?
Okay, I was trying to finish my point again, but that's the kind of day we're having today. Okay, cool. Okay, cool. So my point was...
I mean, we're all talkers here. We're going to interrupt. Hey, it happens. But go ahead.
By the way, I was adding to your point. I was trying to add to your point. That's all. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Go ahead, Kenya. Continue.
Now I'm done.
So was there any point in the movie that kind of resonated with you, with anyone here, even though it kind of fell flat? It sounds like it kind of fell flat. For me, there was one phrase in the movie that just kind of triggered me. And he said, people aren't afraid of guns. They're more afraid of badges. Mm-hmm. Does anyone remember that point? And that shit just shook me in the sense of, because it just kind of made me think of, again, the power behind the police and those in power.
Yes.
And the way they're able to kind of do what they want with our lives. Exactly. And yeah, it's just, I think of like the triggering reaction, the visceral reaction I get when police are like behind me. Sometimes it has nothing to do with you, but just the lights alone will cause a bout of anxiety. You know what I mean? So yeah. Did anyone have anything like that at any point in the movie?
I would say for me, Dominique Fishbach's performance, really good. Her nuances, like every time she appeared on screen, I couldn't take my eyes off of her. Like I felt something, even if she's just standing there. When she was, I guess, shooting her shot at Fred Hampton, like I felt those emotions that she had. But then I also thought about Kill Bill. Wild Bill. He was kind of, I don't necessarily agree with his decision, but I kind of understand because he was in a rock and a hard place. And I feel like a lot of times with Black people, it's like, I'm going to save me, screw the rest of y'all.
And he was 17.
Right. Yeah, he was 17. he was a child. Another element of the movie that I wish they had a display that would probably give you a better understanding of where his perspective, where he was coming from. He was 17. Roy Mitchell was a father figure to him. He basically manipulated this young boy. He made him his puppet, as a young boy. So like you.
So Roy Mitchell was the FBI agent, right?
Yes.
So my feeling on that the chemistry or the camaraderie between those two was an abuse of power in its truest form. It was
absolutely.
it was an emotional torture or terrorism. How I was looking at it as the Lakeith's character, William O'Neill, was, like you said, like a father figure, but it was an abuse of power, like I said. But to him, it was more of like, this man is showing me grace. This man is showing me a way out.
Mm-hmm.
This man is enabling me or allowing me to be free. And all I got to do is this one little thing. And I think that as time evolved, and like you said, I agree with you, what you said about the timelines, but as time evolved in the movie, that's when his conscience was born and it started to grow. But the movie didn't really capture that. But that was my feeling on it. I've also been watching a lot of documentaries lately, and this kind of felt like, I don't know, maybe in the writer's room, maybe they talked about it being a docuseries versus a movie, but it kind of felt to me like they took a 5-year timeline from a documentary and tried to make it into a movie. And to me, I think this would have been much better had it been presented as a documentary rather than a movie.
So basically you're saying this movie was an extended reenactment from a documentary?
That's how it felt to me.
Yeah.
That's how it felt to me. I'm not necessarily saying it's a bad thing, because I learned so, unlike you guys who are Americans, I, as a Canadian, I learned a lot watching that movie. And then after I went down a rabbit hole and I did my research and I connected the dots. But there was so much I didn't know that I learned. And I'm glad that movie opened my eyes to Fred Hampton and William O'Neill and Roy Mitchell and Bobby Rush. Like, I'm glad I watched that to know who these people were and how young they were and how vulnerable they were and how passionate they were. And it made me think of, where's that passion now? Where's that energy now in the youth? So for those reasons, I love the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, great. Mission accomplished.
But you know what? It's funny. I'm going to speak on two things. I'm going to speak on something Kenya said, and I'm going to speak on what you just said, Boogs, about a reenactment of a documentary without the facts. That's what it was. It was a watered down reenactment of a documentary. Because, you have these fictitious, like the Crowns. There was no such group in Chicago known as the Crowns.
Maybe that's a different
nowhere in history.
But maybe there are
other.
The Crowns
did not exist. The Crowns did not exist. The Crowns did not exist.
But maybe that's another name for a bunch of other gangs that coalesced, for political power and leverage. You know what I mean? I don't think
if we're going to do a movie about someone's history and someone's mark on Black history, be factual. Stop doing this. Like, stop taking our history and watering it down, because you're not doing us any service.
But isn't that just part of the movie making industry in itself? Like, they sometimes...
I'm sure the Black Panthers made some negotiations and some compromise with gangs. I'm sure of that. So do we have to know each and every gang they had business with or had dealings with? I think the Crowns kind of represented a consolidation.
But you know what? Here's the thing. If you're going to mention... Okay, I hear what you're saying. And I'm not saying to put every detailed element in the story, because that movie would probably be a week long.
Right.
It'd be a miniseries.
Exactly.
Here's my thing. If you're going to put people in a movie, like, for instance, Jose Chacha Ramirez, he was in a scene with Fred Hampton. No one would know who he is. He had 2 lines, but they won't go into detail of who he was and how significant he was to Fred at this moment in his life. And the same goes for Jeff Ford, in my opinion, who I thought was the Crowns, the Black Rangers, and that was the Crowns. I'm just like, well, why didn't they just call it what it was instead of making something up? Because that's
maybe they couldn't for certain reason.
But that's a teaching moment. Well, then you know what? I don't know if that's the case, because I didn't find any information on that, because I was curious about that. I couldn't find any information about that. I don't know, maybe someone can direct me, but those are the types of things that, I need in these types of movies. If we're going to do a biopic about a historical person.
I don't know if this is a biopic, though. Let me stop you there. Number one, I don't know if this is a biopic. Number one, I wouldn't categorize this as a biopic. Number one. This seems like a moment in a life, okay, or a swath of time in a life. Number two, we got to realize when we were watching these movies, these films, these aren't documentaries. These are films. These are kind of like visual cinematic operas, and which are supposed to give us the emotion and the pathos of these characters, not just facts. This gives the nuance that exists between the facts.
I love how we got to separate the two. We got to be clear there. Inspired or based? There's a huge difference.
Based on true events or inspired by true events?
It does say based on true events. So, you know.
And I would say inspired by true events, not based on true events, because there was nothing true about them.
Well, there is a difference.
For me. And Kenya, I'm going to say this to you about Dominique. I 100% agree with you. I was say this though. The first time I saw the movie, I was a little confused. I was like, why is she acting like this? She's slow. But then when I realized how young everybody was, I was like, oh, well, that's
young as well.
The dynamic. Because these are all children. But why does everybody in the movie seem so much older? You know what I'm saying? Like,
because they are.
Look at the pictures.
No, they weren't though. They were children.
Yeah.
But they aged faster back in that day. They look old too. Like, look at them. They don't look 21, 22.
I'm not saying they look old.
You can see the stress lines.
I'm just saying that they seemed older. They just seemed so much older. It didn't seem like they were 17 to 21. That's what I'm saying. Like,
they looked about 35.
I mean, come on. They were dealing with some heavy shit. So yeah.
But don't you think good kids experience more?
But look at the old footage. Look at Martin Luther King. Martin Luther King's like 29. Martin Luther King was young as hell.
Looking like he was in his 40s. Yeah, I agree with Twaz. Yeah. Well, I mean, they had a lot of stress. I mean, we really have it good compared to back in the days in terms of what they were battling. And
literally,
yeah, they paved the way. None of us could imagine not taking a bus, for example, in New York for a whole year to crash the system so we can get access.
Without showing our ass. We would show
yeah, we would be
ass.
like, hell to the hell no. So yeah.
The sacrifices.
All of that, I think, is based on the heaviness of their life at the time. But I will say this: one of the reasons I read this a long time ago prior to this movie. One of the reasons that the Black Panther Party was so easily infiltrated and decimated was simply because they really did not do a lot of background checks on the people that wanted to join.
They all were. All the movements were heavily infiltrated. They all were.
Yeah, but what I'm saying specifically for the Black Panther Party, they kind of let.
Mitchell had nine FBI informants.
If you were black and you were young, or if you were just for the cause, they just let you in because, again, they weren't really vetting people. You know what I mean? And I think, that kind of speaks to even our contemporary movements where things are co-opted. You know, if we're not careful. You know, we just kind of,
I think co-opted and decimated are two very different MOs.
Well, it's co-opted first and then it's decimated in terms of the original context. Is that not, my English is not, maybe I should rephrase it, but
Hampton, the Black Panther Party, through the program of
but I was not speaking about then. I said contemporary movements. I said that I prefaced with that. Did I not? I think I'm clear. So I'm speaking.
No.
No, I'm speaking about our movements today. I'm not referencing,
how do you vet someone to see if they're a rat? You don't know until it happens.
It's hard. I can imagine it's hard, especially back then where they didn't have access to certain things, of like types of information that.
I mean, keep in mind they had FBI informants, all through the organizations. I mean, Roy alone had 9. That. Who knows how many other? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I heard that. Right. I heard that.
Right, like he didn't even know, so it was just so
he
much.
He didn't know he was talking to.
You're talking about that scene in the car.
Sam's. They two informants. He did nervous, right? They both informants.
But if you think about most of the civil rights movements, there's always informants in there sprinkled in.
Right, and
so that goes back to my original question: like, how do you know somebody isn't a rat? How do you vet that? You don't know until it happens.
That's true.
But people know because, like you said, that girl knew something was up with him. There were signs.
What's her name? Oh my God, I'm blacking out. But she was my favorite character because she smelled a rat immediately.
Oh yes, the one with the ass. What is her name? See, that's why I'm saying with this film, if people are interested, they'll go and they'll research, who these people are, what they did, and they'll get more insight. So for that, I'm kind of happy that it's somewhat mainstream, because other than that, some of these young kids wouldn't know who Fred Hampton is.
Judy Harmon, that was the character's name. Dominique Thorne played Judy Harmon. There's two Dominiques in this movie, Fishbach and Thorne. So yeah, Dominique Thorne played Judy Harmon, which is the character we're discussing here, the one that kind of smelled the rat early on. Yeah. Oh man. And I will say the character of I'm blacking out. Jake Winters moved me in his loyalty to his friend and wanted to find out what happened to his friend.
Yeah, that's the same guy from Moonlight, right?
Yeah, I always look for the characters not in front of the camera, but right behind the main character. They always resonate with me.
So who's Jake Winters? That was one thing I was lost about.
So Algie Smith is the actor who played Jake Winters. Jake Winters was the character that went into the hospital to see his friend that got shot up, which was the actor Ashton.
Oh my God! He's such a great. His presence
Ashton
is
Sanders.
But even him, he wasn't.
We know you like any alternative black people.
I love him, but he was underused. He was underused. I feel like even his character wasn't developed enough.
He's such a strong actor, and I do believe he was underused. But those are real people, and what I'm saying is just the Jake Winters character / person. I love the fact that this man was so devoted to his friend that he wanted to know what happened. He went to the hospital. He couldn't get the information. He went and saw the other dude that worked at the hospital, outside of his trailer. And
what was that relationship about? They should have delved more into that. What they have.
Of course, your ass is going.
Okay, you go to the hospital. Okay, to repeat speeches to him.
It sounds like you're trying to sexualize that relationship. I'm not going to do that.
I don't know.
No, because it sounds like you're doing a tongue-in-cheek wink to that. I'm just saying the loyalty that is exhibited by him, by Jake Winters. And even just hearing his mother talk to him being such a well-behaved child, like Snead was saying, those are the kind of characterizations I would love to learn more about. But that moved me.
Isn't that a part of like the human experience? If something happens to your friend, you want to know what the hell happened?
Well, I guess the way he was portrayed, I liked his passion. I guess that's what I'm saying.
He was very passionate about uncovering the truth. Very, very. Like he was relentless, to the point where he died,
Yeah, so I'm just saying that character resonated with me. I like that type of loyalty.
So back to my question, if you're really good friend, if something happens to your friend and you get no information, aren't you going to kind of go above and beyond to figure out what happened to your friend?
Not every friend will do that. Yeah.
That's why I said you're a good friend.
So I guess that's a good question.
Everybody knew what happened to him. I think everybody knew what happened to him. I think that was happening to a lot of their friends at the time. The cops was taking them out.
Yeah.
But what I really want to know is what was so special about their connection? What did they have that made it extra?
Oh my God. Anyway.
He knocking on doors and he's knocking on
Tim Burton, black man.
Trailer door with the security of the hospital. Where happened to my friend? I'm like, what? Like, good, like.
And wink.
Really? Is that what we're doing here?
Anyway, let's talk about some other.
Twaz, if you find out, please let us know what happened, Twaz.
I think that in a sudden death like that, I mean, the truth overwhelms us. We need it. We need closure, and I think that's what it was really about. I don't really think it was.
How you doing?
I'm being cheeky.
Yeah, so let's talk about some historical figures. Again, this is Black History Month. Let's proceed on to historical figures around the world, not necessarily African American. Twaz, finish what you're doing first, and we'll come back to you. Snead, who'd you come up with?
I don't know if I can really say I came up with him, but I'll just share a brief little story. A friend of mine who's Haitian was actually, the conversation was about the voodoo religion and its practices, because I do a little, creative writing on the side, and one of my characters' origins is in, voodoo and that religion. And we were just talking about different things, and we kind of got into the revolutionists, well, several revolutionists in Haiti. And one of them was, and please forgive me, this is why I did not want to talk about it, because for one, I'm having difficulties.
It's pronounced Dessalines.
Thank you. Thank you, because I'm having difficulties pronouncing his name. Springle, you can kind of interject and help me out here. I think that his story was interesting. I think that he was the extreme version of Malcolm X in Haiti. From my understanding, he was very Black power, no matter where you come from. There is no African-American, African, Haitian, this, that, and the third. You were Black. He was all about one race. It seems essentially that his history and his influence was completely erased. I want to do a little bit more research on his history, but Springle, if you can, elaborate on this historical figure for me, please, I'd appreciate that.
So just to add to what you're saying, I think his name was Jean-Jacques Dessalines, and I think one of the reasons we don't hear much about him in comparison to, say, Toussaint Louverture, which is kind of the father of the Haitian Revolution. Dessalines, I think one of the reasons he's been almost whitewashed from history or popular history in terms of Haiti is because when he declared Haiti an independent nation in 1804, what he did is he murdered, and I'm going to use that word, the French settlers. Almost 5,000 people died because he was just very much, like Snead said, very much pro-independence, pro-Blackness,
What's his name?
Jean-Jacques Dessalines.
Yeah, he was almost a tyrant,
So is he like the Haitian version of a Nat Turner?
It's a bit more Malcolm X than Nat Turner, because he was Toussaint Louverture, which is the more famous leader. He was Toussaint Louverture's lieutenant, and then he took over.
Wasn't there a book written on him by Fannin? Is there a book that was written about him?
That I'm not sure. But yeah, just to kind of add to what Snead was saying, I think that's one of the reasons that Dessalines isn't as known or talked about. Like you said, Kenya, very much like Nat Turner, he was like, just get rid of all of them. Even if you were mixed, you're dead. If you're the child of a slaver, you're dead.
Oh,
if I
wow.
remember reading correctly. So very extreme.
One more time. What's his name?
Jean-Jacques, so Jeanjacques. Dessalines, Dessalines.
I want to see a picture of him. I bet he had blue eyes and light skin himself. I bet you.
Probably.
From Malcolm X, the light skinned dude is always going hard.
Yeah.
Kenya, so who did you come up with for our global Black historical figure?
I came up with the Emperor of Ethiopia, Haile Selassie.
Rastafari. Welcome, my friend. Boys had to come in. Go ahead, Kenya.
Yes. He was known for modernizing his country and for helping to establish the Organization of African Unity, now known as the African Union. He's regarded as the Messiah of the African race by many Rastas. Today, Haile Selassie is worshipped as God incarnate among followers of the Rastafarian movement. Taking Selassie's pre-imperial name Ras, meaning head, a title equivalent to Duke, Tafari Makanan, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing the last name right, which emerged in Jamaica during the 1930s under the influence of Marcus Garvey's Pan-Africanism movement.
Nice. I always wonder how the Rastafarians come up with picking him specifically to kind of be their Jesus.
Yeah, I always wondered that too.
He actually did a lot for Africa. Like, I was watching a documentary a couple years ago, and he was all for like unity. And I guess, them seeing that, they're just like, he's a, why am I having a brain fart right now? They saw him as, I forget what the term is, but kind of like godlike, because he was always about Black people coming together, having your own and all of that good stuff.
Nice. Nice.
But I'll do more research on that at another time.
Boogs. Oh, Canada.
Yes. So, oh, Canada, our home and native land. So, I wanted to talk about Viola Desmond.
Before
She's
you continue,
the first
I actually thought you were about to say Viola.
I did too, but I wasn't going to admit it.
And this goes to show about our history. We don't know so much. And the names we know with Viola, we automatically think Davis. But no, Viola Desmond, she was the first Black Canadian, and she was the first Black Canadian to be on our $10 banknote in 2018. So yes, we have a Black woman on our money.
Nice.
And yes, so she was a Canadian civil rights activist and businesswoman of Black and Nova Scotian descent. In 1964, she challenged racial segregation at a cinema in New Glasgow, Nova Scotia, by refusing to leave a whites-only area of a movie theater. For this, she was convicted of a minor tax violation for the 1 cent tax difference between the seat she had paid for versus the seat she used, which actually was more expensive. Desmond's case is one of the most publicized incidents of racial discrimination in Canadian history and helped start the modern civil rights Canadian movement. In 2010, Desmond was granted a posthumous pardon, the first to be granted in Canada. Also, a fun fact about Viola Desmond is she did go to one of C.J. Madam Walker's beautician schools in the 1960s.
So we're all linked. I love that. Love that.
We're all linked. I love that fun fact. We're all linked and connected.
You know what? So I'm such a up American. Why do I want to shade the Canadian civil rights movement? I got a question. So when did y'all civil rights movement start?
Well, I thought we just said we're not going to have the what do you call it? Oppression politics Olympics.
Olympics.
That would be the Oppression Olympics, which he started earlier with Kenya on the podcast.
Oh my God!
I didn't start that.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, Boogs, she's light skinned, isn't she? I think I read about her a couple of years ago.
Yeah, she's like a lighter,
light skin.
Right.
I've come across
dark-skinned women are still fighting till today.
Kenya, let the lady live.
I mean, you opened up that can of worms. I'm just saying, we're still trying to be seen and heard. 2021. That's my point.
The Black Nova Scotian.
And you know what, Twaz? That was kind of an ignorant statement that you made. I kind of resent that, and that is why we're like doing an oppression dance right now. Because for you to say you didn't know Canada had a civil rights movement is almost like saying you didn't know there were Black people in Canada.
But he doesn't live in Canada. How is he supposed to know, though?
I'm not saying
So hold on, Boogs.
Wait, Snead, let Twaz rebuttal. Let's hear this.
No, wait a minute, hold on, because this could squash the rebuttal. So, Boogs, do you have a problem with the actual question or the way that he asked the question? Because if he's not from Canada, how is he supposed to know?
Because I don't.
Crickets?
Right, crickets. Right. I think that was a real question. I don't think it was rhetorical.
Did Book step away? I think he stepped away.
I think he hung up.
He's still on.
But I really wasn't aware of the. I'm being a little cheeky, tongue in cheek, since we don't know what that means now. But I really don't know about.
Google that. That's what it means.
That being aside, I really don't know the history of the Canadian civil rights movement. Like who is this?
Yeah, I don't think we include Canada in racism. I think we don't think of Canada.
Yeah, like I thought he said like there's no Black people in Canada, and I'm like, there really ain't no Black people in Canada, as far as I know. You know what I mean?
If you're not thinking of Canada and racism, then you're thinking of any Black person in the Black diaspora in the globe is not experiencing any racism unless they're in America. Is that what you're saying? Because that's what I'm hearing.
Yep.
Well, what I'm saying is I don't really consider like Canada.
No, not you, Neil.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Me? What did I do?
You said you don't think of racism in Canada.
No. I don't mean me personally. You know me.
Oh,
Come
no,
on now.
I
You know
thought
me
you were
when it comes
speaking
to race.
collectively for
Yeah.
the group and Twaz. Okay.
It just occurred to me as Twaz has asked that question that I don't think a lot of people think of
We don't, because we don't think
Canada
black
and
people.
racism.
Right,
that's
'cause we don't think
and
we're
that's
And we
black
why
tend
people
to
in
think
Canada.
of, in North America, we just tend to think of the USA alone.
The thing, if you're a black person anywhere in the world, trust me, there's
Yeah.
racism.
Thank you.
When I went to Italy, and every black person, I literally was looking for a black Italian, and every black person I saw, I literally ran up to them like, "Oh my God, where are you from? Are you Italian?" And they weren't.
So, do you guys know that during slavery, when some of the slaves escaped up north to New York, some of them in New York was granted freedom in Nova Scotia in Canada?
I don't know that, but who want to go all the way up there? It's so cold.
Boy, stop.
He's like, great.
Listen, if I'm gonna be free, I'd rather be cold.
Right, like, yeah, okay, I'm be cold, I'm freeze to
Okay,
death.
but you
I
say
don't
that
even got
like
no
there
shoes
was.
on my feet. I thought, what's doing
Oh,
in
my
Canada?
God.
Walking in.
Yeah, so you're just being ignorant. So that's why I'm not even entertaining you.
Wow.
Moving on.
So yeah, he's just being ignorant. But so a funny thing. Y'all know how much I'm very sensitive to accents. The Black Nova Scotian accent is a perfect example of almost like a time capsule, because their accent is very, the really raw one. It sounds almost like Gula Geechee from South Carolina. So that kind of tells you about the time frame in their ancestors, obviously, a lot of them came from the deep South. So they transplanted their accent up there. It's a very unusual accent. It sounds like the cross between a Barbadian and somebody from Alabama.
I thought Geechees were South Carolina.
Yeah, but I'm just giving you kind of like a.
That I didn't know. So that's interesting. That I didn't.
Yeah.
That's
So Twaz, who did you come up with?
Okay, so
Who
for
cares?
my
Wow.
for my Black History exhibition or expose, if you will, I'm going to present to you guys a man by the name of Pablo Fanque, or Fanque, spelled Fanque. He's a British equestrian performer and a circus proprietor, and he's the first recorded non-white British circus owner in Britain. You know, he was popular in Britain during the Victorian era, Britain era, for around 30 years. They call that era the golden age of the circus. Early records before he was born in Norwich, was a part of England. Some records say he was a mixed race ancestry, but when you look at his picture, he looked like a black man. You know what I mean?
He looks like Neil.
Like, what the fuck are you talking about?
But don't forget, some of us can come out looking, be mixed and still come out looking regular black, right?
I mean, but he looked like Marcus Garvey. You know what I mean? Like he looked like a Jamaican.
Gotcha.
So,
I see what you're saying.
So he's born around 1810. There's some debate over exactly he was born, but he had an apprenticeship under a circus proprietor named William Batty. Started on doing the sawdust ring with the circus, the horse running around the ring, and he just rose up the ranks and just became a legend in England as like the black, I guess, Barnum and Bailey. And he even got his kids to join the circus and stuff like that. And as far as popular cultural references, in the mid-20th century, John Lennon is composing a song called Being for the Benefit of Mr. Kite, which is on a famous album called Sgt. Pepper. He borrowed liberally from a playbill with Pablo Fanque's called Circus Royal, and actually used like the advertisement for Pablo Fanque's like circus as lyrics in a song on Sgt. Pepper.
Oh wow!
So yeah, so he's like he's referenced in a pop culture, one of the greatest albums of pop culture, and many people know he is. He's a black circus owner from the 1800s, Britain's Victorian era, the golden era of the circus. Present to you Pablo Fanque, ladies and gentlemen. Do your more research, find out about it.
What was his name? How do you spell his name?
Hello, last name Fanque, Fanque. But he was born William Darby. So he changed his name. I said Pablo Fanque. Pablo Fanque was his, I'm a circus, impresario, That was his Sgt. Pepper. I'm Pablo Fanque, That was his rapper name, if you will.
I kind of like that name though. It almost sounds like a mumble rapper these days.
British rap, I guess that was his, Afrobeat circus.
Or an Afrobeat artist.
I don't know. Funk.
It's funny that you talked about he's born in Norwich, and we're talking about places that maybe people don't think black people might have been in for a long time. So in the UK, blacks were in the UK. Funny enough, I hate the show Bridgerton for certain reasons, but blacks were in the UK for hundreds of years prior to what we, think of as main slavery period here in the U.S. For example, I know that they said Liverpool was a huge slave port, Brighton. There was one more I'm blacking out, but yeah. So there were blacks that were brought to the Brixton.
No, not
Brixton
at all.
is not a port. What are you talking about? Where's he going with that?
I'm not sure.
I don't know. I was dropping bars.
Yeah, so there are actually like UK blacks or people with black ancestry in the UK who've been there for hundreds of years, and not like contemporarily, like say Nate and people like Kenya and myself who might have relatives in the UK and things like that. They've actually had some black UK people who've been there for hundreds of years. But
just like Canada.
My person.
Black people are everywhere. We are everywhere.
Very true. Very true.
Everywhere.
Don't say it like that. It scares me when you say it like that.
Well, it should scare you. But anyway,
what if I want to get away? What if I want to get away from y'all? But what if niggas want to get away from niggas? Where they gonna go? Like, come on, there gotta be somewhere that we not. Come on.
And you believe in Malcolm X, and you love Malcolm X, and you stand for everything that he represented, and you're gonna make a statement like that? Shame yourself.
Anyway, are y'all gonna let me talk about my peoples or what?
All these ignorant statements and that you're making, and you revere Malcolm X.
I feel like this is a WWF. We giving a tag team your ass. Come on.
You're gonna sit on that podcast the other day and talk about how you revered Malcolm X, and you making nothing but ignorant statements when we're talking about black icons and the black legacy. You should be ashamed of yourself.
Ooh. Ooh. Talk about it, Boogs.
Kenya, why are you instigating? But anyway, the person I chose to kind of do some research on is Thomas Sankara. And the reason I've always appreciated his story simply because I would consider him a male feminist. And to some degree, I consider myself one as well, despite my dismissal of what women have to say about their experiences. I am very pro, simply because, again, as I prefaced my statement, I do believe a lot of the troubles in the world start from the male ego. And that's why I respect women much more than I do men. Anyway, Thomas Sankara was born December 21st in Burkina Faso. And that was a country formerly called Upper Volta by the French when it was a French colony. And so when he became their president, he changed the name, and Burkina Faso means land of the upright people or land of the honest people, which I absolutely love. Incorporating two of their languages in the renaming of the country. And he was an advocate for women's empowerment. He abolished polygamy, female genital mutilation. He also revolutionized their health and education sectors by building multiple schools and health centers. And he did all of this without the help of outside colonizers in Europe and the US and whatnot. So to me, that's phenomenal. I love the thought of someone actually helping their country to progress and not necessarily dependent on outside folks to do that as well. Unfortunately, he was assassinated on October 15th, 1987 by, of course, one of his close advisors, which is usually the case. His name was Blaise Compaoré, who also resigned in 2018 recently. But yeah, Thomas Sankara for me represents a progressive male African figure that sees the value of women, sees the value of education, sees the value of health, and also sees the value of helping his people versus what I consider I'm seeing now contemporarily. A lot of African leaders are just kind of happy to feed their tribes, their clan, their family, and go to Europe on vacations. And that's it, and have the rest of the country suffer. So for me, kudos to Thomas Sankara from Burkina Faso.
Ooh, yeah. I like that. How you spell his last name again?
Sankara.
And sorry, where was he from?
Burkina Faso.
Burkina Faso.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I say just like that. But
Land of the upright people. Love that. All right, folks. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning in. This was another episode of The Double Bind. I actually have to say I really enjoyed this episode. I hope you did too. Do not forget to subscribe and follow us on social media, and feel free to hit us up with a comment. We appreciate it. So this is Springle signing out, and the rest of this crazy ass crew I have is probably going to say bye as well. So
Oh wait, is the woman allowed to say goodbye?
No.
We're allowed to speak.
Oh, never.
Thank you for tuning in. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and now Clubhouse, as well as all major streaming platforms. Don't forget to hit like, share, and subscribe. And we'd love to hear from you, so leave us a comment.